Hello, everybody. Intuition here. Thank you, as always, for making time and space for us. Today, we would like to discuss the topic of abandonment. It seems as though the holidays bring out some of our greatest insecurities. With it being Thanksgiving coming up next week, and Christmas soon following after, many of us will be triggered into some of our core wounds. And for many of us, one of those core woundings is that of abandonment. And so then therefore, we know it would be most important to discuss what is underneath abandonment and how to address it in a way that allows you to move into your power as opposed to feeling powerless in the belief that you are being triggered into the illusion of abandonment. And so let us first just begin with what is underneath abandonment, yes? Because abandonment is an action, yes? Abandonment is not necessarily a feeling. Abandonment triggers the feelings of sadness or insecurities or anger or rage. But abandonment inherently is simply an action. And so then therefore, what is really underneath abandonment is disconnection. When we are going through the belief that we have been abandoned, what we are really feeling insecure and upset about is the idea that we are not connected in the way that we would like to be connected to the individual in front of us or to a circumstance or situation that we would prefer to have in our lives. And so then therefore, because we don't feel connected, we start to feel abandoned, because even though we are reaching out, so to speak, there is a recoiling on the other side in which we are not able to reach or penetrate in a way that would allow us to feel a sense of connectivity and receptivity, so that then therefore we could foster that connection. That connection is severed, and then therefore that causes the illusion of abandonment. So it is important to understand what abandonment really is about inherently, and if we look again beneath the surface, what abandonment will always be about is the fact that I am not connected to you in the way that I feel most appropriate and most fitting for my soul. And as always, any feeling that you have is valid. If something is not going your way and you feel insecure, frustrated, disappointed, agitated about it, then that is absolutely inherently valid. You are entitled to feel whatever way in which you wish to feel. However, feelings are not always generally based in any sense of reality. And so though your feelings are valid, that does not mean that they are true. And so then therefore, when you are stuck in a feeling of abandonment, which is stemming from a feeling of not being connected, which then therefore triggers the sadness, the depression, the anger, the shutting down, it is important to simply realize that though these feelings are valid, they are not necessarily based in the truth of what it is that is actually happening. Because the reality of the situation is that nobody can really abandon you. That is a perception. You can never really be completely disconnected from anyone. And we know that sounds counterintuitive, counterproductive. Well, when I was a child, my father left and abandoned me, and that made me feel as though I was disconnected from them. What do you mean abandonment is not real? Nobody could abandon me. They were gone. So then therefore, what do you call that? And that is the action of abandonment. People could actively, physically abandon you, but that then therefore does not necessarily mean that emotionally that should cause a disruption, which then therefore leads to a disconnection. Because again, if at the end of the day it's all about connection, and we're looking outside of ourselves to feel connected to something, then that inherently is a problem. That means that on some level there's an over-identification with something or someone, in which then therefore you are putting your needs on someone else in order for you to feel connected. Because if I don't feel connected to you, it is really not really about the relationship in which is or isn't pleasing to me. It is about the fact that I'm using you in order to feel more connected to myself. And so then therefore the problem really becomes about Yes, I feel triggered because of the action of abandonment, which then pushes me into the illusion of disconnection. But really, if I am pushed into that, then on some level, the first person that abandoned me, the first situation that abandoned me is not a person, is not the situation, it is me. I abandoned me. I disconnected from myself. Because if you truly, genuinely, viscerally felt connected to yourself, Jesus could abandon you and you would feel fine. Now, it would be sad. I'm not saying that you're not necessarily going to have a feeling, but it won't be acute that then therefore causes a reaction. You'll be able to be responsive instead of reacting. You'll be able to put it in its place and say, well, you know what, this is sad that Jojo abandoned me. However, I'm fine because at the end of the day, I'm connected to myself, and that is the most important connection that there is. So, we say all this just simply to shift you back into a sense of power. Because if I'm sitting here saying, you abandoned me, it is you who did it, that then therefore is causing me to feel this way, we're not saying again that that is incorrect. However, if I am shifting all of my energy to point the finger at you, then I have just gone out of balance within myself. And I'm putting all my energy, all my power in the illusion that you have so much control over me, that you could cause me to feel a feeling that is outside of my control, and that is not any sense of reality in which we understand. Because nobody could ever make you feel anything without your consent. And then so if you are saying that you abandoned me, then you are saying really to yourself a subliminal message of, you have so much power over me that you then therefore can control me, so much so that you can make me feel a feeling that I don't want to feel. And that is not real. So it is important to acknowledge then therefore that nobody could make me feel any way without my consent. That I disconnected from myself, which then therefore caused the illusion of abandonment. And then therefore it is important for me to take responsibility for my part in me disconnecting from myself. Not to say that the other person that abandoned me isn't or shouldn't be held accountable and responsible. However, it is both of you and not just one of you. It is not all me saying, oh my goodness, what have I done? I'm a piece of shit, and then therefore everybody abandons me. Nor should it be, you are the problem, you did this, it is your fault. It needs to be equal in the sense of responsibility and accountability. You are responsible for your half, and I'm responsible for my half. And only then, when there is both shared responsibility, then there is balance, that then therefore allows you to move into your power, and no longer are you a victim. You are able to move above victimhood and move into your power. But that can only happen if you are not making yourself the victim or playing the victim. Making yourself the victim by saying again, oh my goodness, this is all my fault, I always do this. Or to the other extreme, it is your fault, you did this to me. So, we know that for some this is hard to hear. And we are in no way, shape, or form, again, trying to blame the victim if you are the person that feels abandoned. Like we said, that is valid. However, it is also important to understand that if you are a victim, then that means that somebody else has power over you. And again, that becomes problematic, because if somebody has power over you, then what it is that you are inherently saying to yourself, the subliminal messaging behind that is that I am powerless. Everybody else has more control over my life than I do, because I would prefer not to be the victim, and yet I'm saying that somebody else has so much power to make me feel such a certain way that then therefore I am powerless. And so, that is how we see abandonment. Important for us to consider and understand as we move into potentially complicated interactions as we move towards the holidays with family members and friends, and remembering not to be triggered into an illusion, because again, if I'm starting to feel abandoned, or there is memories of abandonment popping up into my frame of reference, how can we mitigate and minimize those feelings by seeing that it's really about disconnection? And if it is about disconnection, how can we reconnect to ourselves? Because I don't need somebody else to feel connected to myself. As always, we are full of gratitude for you making time and space for us, and we wish you well connecting to the most important person that will ever be in your life. And that is you. How wonderful, how beautiful, how exciting. Thank you as always. Well wishes.